Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Smith.
I do appreciate you being here for the time.
You're walking out.
That's it.
You're loading your tools up and you're walking out.
That's it.
What are we going to do now without you? What are we going to do?
I mean, that's your decision. So if you don't want to be a part of the team.
I guess I did fire you and Jordan, and I told you, if you'd pay attention and you listened to me, I could get a show.
Tom Smith was the kind of man you noticed the moment he walked into a room, because not only did his voice carry humor, he also turned broken cars into something worth staring at, and he made people laugh while doing it. This is why so many believed he had everything going his way. However, what the cameras never showed was how fast things changed. And now the question everyone asks is simple. Where did it all go wrong for the man who once seemed unstoppable? The answer is far more heartbreaking than anyone expected. Everything to know about Misfits Garage. Misfits Garage was a reality show that aired on the Discovery Channel, and it came as a spin-off from the popular show Fast and Loud. The idea was followed by a group of talented mechanics who decided to start their shop after leaving Gas Monkey Garage in Dallas, Texas. Two of those mechanics were Tom Smith and Jordan Butler, who were joined by Thomas Weeks and Scott McMillan. Together, they launched a new company called Fired Up Garage, and this was the heart of the show. Misfits Garage premiered on October 13, 2014, and it was produced by Pilgrim Studios with Craig Piligian, Richard Rawlings, and Eddie Rowetter as executive producers. Craig Kaufman also served as the executive producer for the Discovery Channel. Now let's talk about Tom Smith, because his life before the cameras is as fascinating as what we saw on TV. Tom was born in Ohio, but later he moved to Georgia, where he spent a big part of his early years. Even as a little boy, Tom was curious and full of energy. He loved to tear things apart just to see how they worked, and even though most of the time he could not put them back together, that never stopped him from trying. He had a natural desire to learn, and he was never afraid to make mistakes. Tom was also good with words and books. He went to a local high school in Georgia and even placed third at the state spelling bee championship. Tom, however, was never the type to follow rules without question. He liked doing things his own way, and that often got him into trouble. From a young age, Tom began working with his uncle in the family garage, where he developed his passion for cars. It happened that when he was about 10 years old, he made a decision that became one of his most unforgettable childhood stories. Tom's uncle had a 1974 Pontiac Granville, and one day Tom decided to take it for a ride. Unfortunately, this decision did not end well because he was just a kid with no driving experience. While cruising around, he got pulled over by the police for joyriding, but instead of stopping, he ended up crashing right into the police car. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt, but when he got home, Tom got a classic old-fashioned spanking from his uncle, and that memory stayed with him. At the age of 12, Tom moved in with his grandmother. After graduating from high school, he returned to Ohio and started an auto shop in a rough part of town. During this period, he was surrounded by Chevy fans. Instead of joining the crowd, Tom bought a 1967 Ford Galaxie XL convertible, and when asked why, his answer was unforgettable. He said, "I am not going to ride over a cliff with you in a Chevy, so I bought a Ford." By this time, Tom was already married and had a child. One of the biggest influences in Tom's life as a young man was Carl Parsons, a master mechanic well known in Ohio racing circles for his ability to extract the most performance from an engine. Carl saw potential in Tom and took him under his wing, teaching him the secrets of car building and repair. Tom also loved solving problems and often said that one of his favorite things was figuring out what went wrong with a car. He once mentioned that he feels bad for mechanics today because diagnosing modern electronic problems is nothing like the old days when engines were simple and beautiful. Tom went on to say that now you do a simple brake job and still have to reset a computer, while back then engines looked like art when you lifted the hood. He missed that classic look and the craftsmanship of old motors. For a while, Tom moved around, even working on television towers before eventually finding his way to Texas. In Texas, he spent about 4 years working on hot rods at Driver's Edge, where his skills as a mechanic were honed. He developed a reputation for enhancing drivability and improving car performance to unprecedented levels. Tom is the kind of person who never settles for his average work, as he always tries to push his limits and create something better with each build. Over time, he worked on many different cars, but his dream machines were the 1964 Ford Thunderbolt and the 1965 Shelby Cobra. Ever wonder why? Well, these cars represent pure power and style. His journey eventually led him to Gas Monkey Garage, marking a turning point. When Fast and Loud began airing on Discovery, Tom became part of a show that millions of viewers loved as his humor and personality made him stand out. However, his time at Gas Monkey came to an end when he left both the garage and the show. But Tom didn't stay down. He quickly found another chance when Misfits Garage was born and joined the new team at Fired Up Garage. Even then, he stayed true to his roots as a Ford guy, even though most of his co-workers were Chevy enthusiasts. Tom appreciated all kinds of cars, though, and this artistic side showed whenever he talked about the Chrysler-finned car era of the late 1950s and early 1960s. He loved the designs by Virgil Exner, saying that the style, lines, and flow of those cars were something special. If you didn't know, beyond his expertise with car dealing, Tom once mentioned he used to be a great drawer, and now he considers himself a good one. His artwork has filled entire walls in the homes of friends, as he would sometimes take about 200 Sharpies to create large pieces of art that left people amazed. The evolution of Tom Smith. After Gas Monkey Garage is the custom auto shop featured on the popular show Fast and Loud, which has been running on the Discovery Channel for 14 seasons from 2012 to 2020. The shop gained recognition for its distinctive car builds and for its owner, Richard Rawlings, who has consistently been a strong presence on the show. Recall that Tom worked with Gas Monkey Garage earlier. The story of Tom Smith's exit from Gas Monkey goes back to 2014, when an unexpected incident changed everything for him and Jordan Butler. According to what Tom later told TMZ, the problem started with a Rolls-Royce owned by Richard Rawlings. Tom and Jordan allowed a visitor to take a picture near the Rolls, which upset their shop manager greatly. The manager confronted them in a harsh manner, and things quickly escalated. Tom reacted by swearing at the manager, and soon after that, both he and Jordan were let go. Richard later spoke to TMZ and said that they were troublemakers at the shop, but Tom saw things differently. He believed the situation could have been handled better. In fact, in a Discovery Channel video, Jordan stated that it was the only time in his life he had ever been fired, and he described the manager's actions as completely unreasonable. He even added that getting fired just for calling your boss a name made no sense to him. Fans of Misfits Garage know there has always been tension between its cast members and the team at Gas Monkey. This rivalry has been a major talking point since Misfits Garage first aired in 2014, and even today people still wonder what caused all the bad blood. It would be easy to think that it was just business competition because both shops worked on similar projects, but the truth is, it ran deeper than that. For Tom Smith, however, getting fired was a turning point. He once said it was the best thing that ever happened to him, and even compared himself to people like Bill Gates, who were fired before becoming successful. Tom and Jordan decided to turn the situation around, so they teamed up with Scott McMillan, who had also worked at Gas Monkey before, and Thomas Weeks, another talented mechanic. Together, they started Fired Up Garage, and that move gave birth to the new show Misfits Garage, which premiered on the Discovery Channel in October. As easy as starting a new shop sounded, building it from scratch was far from easy, and Fired Up Garage faced several challenges from the beginning. It was smaller than Gas Monkey and lacked the same resources and fan base, which made it difficult to attract clients and meet their expectations. On top of that, they had to deal with criticism and backlash from die-hard Fast and Loud fans, which made things even more complicated. The tension between the two garages only got worse after Tom and Jordan's firing because it became personal. To make a statement, the founders chose the name Fired Up Garage so the initials would form FU, which many saw as a direct message to their former boss. The show's title, Misfits Garage, also sent a clear signal that these were people who didn't fit into the plans Richard had for Gas Monkey. The rivalry spilled into the public, with both sides exchanging words in interviews and on social media. One time, Richard Rawlings and the Misfits Garage crew accused each other of dishonesty and unethical practices. These arguments drew even more attention to both shows, as the feud created drama that fans followed closely. In some ways, it also helped both shows gain popularity, as people wanted to see what would happen next. Rumors also began circulating that each garage was attempting to poach employees from the other. There was considerable speculation in the media about who would be the first to jump ship. One of the biggest stories involved Aaron Kaufman, the popular mechanic from Gas Monkey, with many people believing he might leave to join the team at Fired Up Garage, which reportedly worried Richard Rawlings. Why do you think Tom left and decided to start another garage? Let's examine how deeply Tom's love for cars ran. Tom Smith's deep love for cars.
Would never have a metric bolt in it ever, because the metric system was out there to intimidate and to cause chaos.
Have you ever seen a mechanic so passionate about old cars that even a single bolt could push him over the edge? In this episode, Tom Smith was expressing his frustration while working on an old engine, and the way he spoke gives a clear picture of his personality and the things he cares about most. He began by stating that he needed to remove something from the motor. Then he continued by describing his surprise when he discovered what he believed to be an unusual situation. Tom mentioned going out into this great land, calling it great with pride, and searching for replacement parts, but then realizing that something did not seem right. He repeated the words, "I say," several times as he stressed his concern, which shows how strongly he felt about what he was seeing. The issue that upset him was the presence of a 16mm bolt or fitting on the motor he was working on. Tom pointed out that this was completely unexpected because an old American engine should never have a metric bolt or metric thread. In his experience, motors from that era were built using standard American sizes, such as 9/16, and not metric measurements. When he spoke about this, it was not just a technical observation. It was also a reflection of his perspective on the changes in the automotive industry over time. He mentioned that the metric system seemed intimidating to him and believed it created confusion for mechanics who were used to working with the traditional American system. To him, cars built in the old days represented a certain standard of craftsmanship, and the introduction of metric parts felt like an unnecessary complication. Tom went on to make a humorous comparison by saying that his mother once told him the metric system was the devil, which explains why he referred to it as something that could ruin everything. He expressed this frustration in a dramatic style, saying that this could be the beginning of society breaking down, almost as if the mixing of measurement systems symbolized a loss of order in the world of mechanics. This exaggeration was a characteristic of his personality, as he frequently employed humor and sarcasm to make his point. After venting about the metric system, Tom added a few more comments that were scattered and filled with emotion. He mentioned messages about being a decent human being, kidney bills, and holding on to certain values, which suggests that he was reflecting on how small changes can sometimes feel tied to bigger issues in life. He then shifted back to talking about the perpetrators, saying they would be found, drowned, revived, and questioned, which again shows his tendency to mix humor with frustration when explaining a problem. Finally, he ended the rant by joking about being sent to California. Then he made a casual remark about lunch, which lightened the tone and reminded everyone that his outburst was not fueled by anger, but rather by expressing his dislike for seeing something unexpected on a classic engine. What Tom meant in this rant was that he valued traditional ways of building and fixing cars, and seeing metric bolts on an old American motor went against everything he believed those cars represented. For Tom, cars were more than machines. They were pieces of history, and incorporating modern elements like metric measurements felt wrong. The tragedy of Tom Smith. You might be wondering what's come of Tom Smith all these years, and why we're here. Well, Tom Smith is arguably one of the most unique personalities viewers have seen on Misfits Garage, and this became clear with every episode of the show. He's a man full of energy and humor, and even though people often describe him as a little unusual, there is no doubt about his talent as a mechanic, as his skills have taken him to various garages over the years. One of the highlights of Tom's career came when he was asked to work on a 1970s AMC Gremlin, which was a very big project for him at the time. When the car was finished, most mechanics would have celebrated, but Tom was not satisfied with its appearance, and this drove him to try something unexpected. He decided to turn the Gremlin into a makeshift boat as an experiment, and when the work was done, he drove it straight into a lake. Unfortunately, the car sank, and as he watched it go under the water, Tom's excitement turned into disappointment because he had put so much effort into that build. Tom wasn't just a good mechanic. He was also someone who brought life into every room with his jokes and clever one-liners. Fans of the show often mention how his humor made him stand out. And what makes it even better is that this was never an act for the cameras because Tom has always been naturally funny. He is widely considered the funniest member of the Misfit Garage crew, and that side of him comes from his experience as a professional stand-up comedian. Yes, you heard right. Away from the garage, Tom has performed at several comedy clubs, including the Dallas Improv Club, and sometimes he even took the stage at the Manhattan Christie Comedy Club. As you all know, one of the main talking points throughout the episodes of Misfit Garage has been the rivalry between Fired Up Garage and Gas Monkey Garage, especially the tension with Richard Rawlings. For a long time, viewers believed this was a genuine feud, and it gave the series a major subplot that many people enjoyed following. However, much of what fans saw was staged for television, as the drama helped make the show more interesting to watch. Behind the scenes, most of the big moments were carefully planned for the camera, largely because Richard Rawlings himself was involved in the production. Yes, not only was he the owner of Gas Monkey Garage, but he was also an executive producer, and even credited as the creative talent behind the show. Richard approved many of the decisions related to filming, and he also owned the building where Fired Up Garage was set up. This meant that even though Tom and his team wanted to show they were separate from Gas Monkey, Richard still had control of the space and had a big say in what happened on the show. According to reports from Top Speed, Richard was also responsible for managing the financial aspects, which gave him another level of influence over all aspects of production. If you're also wondering whether the name Fired Up Garage was truly a statement, then you're about to find out. The name was often talked about because many fans believed it was chosen as a direct insult to Richard Rawlings. But the truth seems to be more personal for Tom. When he was a child, Tom once wrote a message on his toolbox that said, "Our customers have been satisfying us since 1973, which shows how much he loved the idea of having his shop one day. He even had a dream of calling it F&U Garage, which explains why the name Fired Up meant something to him. When he finally had the chance to build a new garage after leaving Gas Monkey, he used the name he had imagined years earlier. While the initials FU sparked a lot of conversation for Tom, it connected to something from his childhood, taking you back to when two of the most popular members were fired. Fans believed that the reason for Tom Smith and Jordan Butler's departure was linked to their habit of showing up late or issues with their work performance, but reports from TMZ told a different story. According to their version of events, Tom and Jordan were fired because they allowed a fan to take a photo near Richard Rawlings' Rolls-Royce, which was a big deal for the management. When the manager confronted them, things got heated, and Tom told him to calm down using strong language. This did not go over well, and a few hours later, both men were let go. This event surprised fans because Tom and Jordan were important members of the team and had strong followings on the show. After their departure from Gas Monkey, Tom and Jordan took a different path and joined Misfit Garage. Their goal was to show the world that money and fame were not everything, and that a group of talented mechanics could build amazing cars without the resources of a big brand like Gas Monkey Garage. They partnered with Scott McMillan and Thomas Weeks to start Fired Up Garage. Misfit Garage then introduced a new dynamic where the Misfits tried to prove themselves by taking on challenging builds, allowing fans to see their creativity and hard work showcased in every episode. The show also featured moments where Richard Rawlings appeared to collect rent because he owned the building where Fired Up Garage operated. Now, many people would assume that a garage as popular as Fired Up Garage would easily make huge profits from the car restorations shown on television. But the truth is very different. Running a business like this comes with very high costs, and for Fired Up Garage to generate approximately $100,000 in a month through restorations alone, they would need to complete at least 50 full car projects within that same period. This is not possible because of the time it takes to complete each build, and when you consider the amount of labor and resources that go into these projects, the effort is far greater than the return. The question then becomes, how does Fired Up Garage actually make money? Like most television shows, the revenue does not primarily come from the work seen on camera, but from the audience that watches the program. The more viewers a show has, the more valuable it becomes for advertisers because companies pay large amounts of money to have their commercials aired during the program. Misfit Garage had about an average viewership of around 1.3 million people per episode, which makes it attractive to advertisers and allows the show to generate significant income through these commercial deals. Among the people who gained fame on Misfit Garage was Kevin Clark, a key member of the Fired Up Garage team. Unlike many of his colleagues who grew up working on real cars from an early age, Kevin developed his passion for cars through playing with toy cars. His family was not very interested in automobiles, and his father even believed that cars were nothing more than a Western conspiracy. Despite this, Kevin loved cars and models so much that even as an adult, it is common to find him working on toy cars when he is not busy with real vehicles in the garage. The catch is that the cars themselves do not generate significant revenue because the profit margin on restorations is very low. For every build that Fired Up Garage completes, the average profit sits at about $2,000, which shows why television viewership was so important for keeping the business afloat. Another well-known member of the team is Thomas Weeks, who is recognized not only for his knowledge of cars, but also for his strong interest in aeronautics. What many viewers may not know is that Thomas has had more than his fair share of accidents and injuries over the years. He has dealt with a herniated disc in his wrist, which is why he often wears a glove over one hand. He has also suffered a deep cut to his chin from a metal rod. One of the earliest accidents in his life happened when he was only 4 years old and fell into a spiked emission. His extensive list of injuries highlights the physical demands and risks associated with this line of work. Since the show began, Fired Up Garage has undergone numerous changes in its lineup, with some of the original members departing over time. Jordan Butler, who co-founded the garage alongside Tom Smith, eventually walked away. Scott McMillan, another founding partner, also left to concentrate on his own business called Scott Rod's Garage. Kevin Clark is another name that later stepped away from Fired Up Garage, reportedly because of the drama that seemed to surround the show. These changes are not surprising, as businesses like this often encounter problems when money and personal egos are involved. One of the main appeals of Misfit Garage to viewers has always been the creativity shown in restoring old vehicles and giving them new life. However, the show also faced criticism from some enthusiasts who believed the team sometimes went too far in trying to be different. Jennifer Barama, writing for TV Overmind, stated that one of the reasons Misfit Garage did not become as big as some of its rival programs was because the cast sometimes failed to give certain classic cars the respect they deserved. She gave an example of one episode that upset many fans, where a 1957 Chevy was chopped up and turned into a gasser instead of keeping it as a traditional hot rod. For many car lovers, vehicles like that Chevy carry a lot of meaning and history, so these decisions did not sit well with them. The future of the show also became uncertain after its 6th season, which premiered on May 2, 2018 with 13 episodes. There were rumors that a 7th season would begin in early 2020, but these never turned into reality. And as of 2020, there was still no official word about the return of Misfit Garage. In addition to the uncertainty about the show, the departure of key figures like Jordan Butler attracted a lot of attention. Jordan left during the fourth season, reportedly due to disagreements related to bringing in new partners and the possibility of relocating to a different shop location. While some people thought his exit was scripted for television, reports suggest that his split from the team was more serious than what viewers saw on camera. After leaving, Jordan kept a low profile and even said in a Facebook post that he no longer had contact with the rest of the cast. You can find Tom on Facebook, where he posts about his favorite car. One time he posted about his Lambo dream car, and the comments were hilarious. One said, "Sure, it'd fit you like a glove." Another said, "He might get in, but it's the getting out again." Through all the changes and challenges, Tom has continued to show up in ways that many did not expect. During the COVID-19 pandemic, while most of the world came to a standstill, Tom kept his love for entertaining people alive by performing live comedy sessions, reminding everyone of the humor that first made him a fan favorite. Beyond the stage and the garage, he has also dedicated time to helping rescue and transport dogs in need, showing a side of him that cares deeply about more than just machines. Just a few years back, Tom shared a post on Facebook that gave his fans something to smile about. He hinted that there might be a chance for him to return to television with an auto modification show of his own. This news sparked excitement and hope for those who have followed his journey from the very beginning. But it also leaves one question hanging in the air. After everything he has been through, will Tom Smith finally get the new start he deserves? What new thing did you learn about him today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, explore the other videos on your screen.